From talking about entrepreneurship, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to another subject which is very important for every working woman in this room: workplaces. As far as workplaces are concerned, you'll agree with me when I say that we need to welcome diversity of gender and gender-specific needs. Is it an added effort? Surely is. But is it worth it? Well, it's worth every minute that we spend. In fact, many studies show that the more diverse the employee pool, the more innovative the organization. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, to share with us insights on what does it take to create a dream workplace for women, let me first call on stage Outlook Business Editor N. Mahalakshmi, who will moderate this discussion with a very august panel. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome her with a warm round of applause. Thank you for joining us. And keep those claps coming as I invite our power panel for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Former Chairman, State Bank of India, the country's largest public sector bank, Arundhati Bhattacharya. CEO and Joint Managing Director, Welspun India, one of Asia's largest home textiles producer, Dipali Goenka. Joining us on the power panel is President Jagran Prakashan, one of India's leading media houses, Apurva Purohit. And we also have with us Managing Director, Godrej Nature's Basket, India's pioneering food destination from the country's oldest conglomerate. Please put your hands together for Avani, Davda. Ladies, please take your seat, and Mahalakshmi, over to you.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me for this beautiful discussion around women at workplace. This topic has definitely gained some currency over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe a decade. And a lot of companies have, at least in the last 4 or 5 years, made a lot of effort to make changes at workplace to ensure that it is more congenial for women. But at the same time, what is disheartening is that data shows that women are dropping out of workplace at a very uncomfortable pace. And predominant reason being lack of support system, a lot of mothers dropping out because they are in comfortable financial positions, no longer have to really slog. And if one person were to quit the job, it might as well be the woman. So my own experience in working as a journalist for the last 20 years, I have always believed that this is an issue that needs to be resolved at home rather than at workplace. So women dropping out of, work is really a home issue rather than a workplace issue. So what am I getting wrong here? Because most people don't seem to agree.
I can start.
Sure, Dipali.
So I must tell you, a lot of people here, I have factories where, it's textile factories, very, very male dominant. But as you spoke about home, what we did? We partnered with an NGO where they trained not just the women, but the men. Because the women would get up at 4:30 to make the food, take the children to school, and then come to work and then get back home and do everything else. So here we actually made men also multitask with the women and respect what the women were doing. And proud to say today we have around 25% women at our factories and at our workplaces as well.
Absolutely. That's, I think a very rare example of organization that actually works on men to be better supporters of women at home.
But also the peers, I would say. I'm just interjecting. Right. Because, what a woman needs is respect. So whatever we might talk about women empowerment, we might talk about a lot of things, but it's also about the peer respecting. I think it's a mutual respect in that kind of a workplace that's highly important as well.
Sure. Ma'am.
I don't think it's the home alone. Yes, of course, there have to be changes on the family front because women are still the primary caregivers, and to that extent they feel responsible whenever something comes up that needs their presence. And women being women, they feel very they feel drawn to both sides, and they feel bad if they feel that they are shortchanging either the office or home. And because of this huge kind of pulls and pressures that they are under, they often decide that they would rather not be under such a stress, and they give up one or the other. So the fact remains, yes, the home is definitely something where you need more support, but you need support in the workspace too. And this is another example I've given in a few other occasions. A lot of my young women colleagues, they were going for platform jobs, meaning they were going for jobs in, say, areas like HR and training, and, not jobs that were operational in nature. And automatically what happens is, especially when you're junior, if you're not doing operational jobs, your promotion prospects get hampered. So I, in fact, asked in one such gathering that why is it that you're spoiling your career? Why are you not going to these rural branches that you have to do? Why are you not becoming branch managers? Because that's going to give you the right experience. And I always thought it was because they were shirking this kind of work. And then one of the girls, she spoke up and she told me, ma'am, it's not like that. The problem is when you post us into these villages, we can't find a place to stay. So I was quite amazed. I said, why shouldn't you find a place to stay? And she says, well, because nobody is going to rent out a house to a single woman. It's in these villages, that's the kind of situation you have. And then it occurred to me that this was a problem that I had never even anticipated or tried to address. So next step that we did was we tried to address this by taking a house in the nearest taluka town. It would normally be a four-roomed house, and I would have 8 girls staying over there, messed together, and they would be sent to the nearby 8 villages in order to finish this assignment. It worked hugely in the sense that many more people started going out for operational assignments. And not only that, these are all young girls, so most of them told me that they had a whale of a time staying together, away from their families. So the fact is, there have to be certain changes in workplace as well. You have to be sensitive as to why women are either dropping out or not taking up the challenge. And these changes necessarily must be at the workplace as well.
But ma'am, would you not agree that since you talked about banks, because every 3 years bank employees do get transferred, and a whole bunch of women forego those transfers even if they are promotions because they want to be with the family, they're concerned about their kids' school education. But you look at Army or Air Force, every 3 years they transfer, it's okay, They can have those jobs, and women are willing to play that support role. But when it comes to their own jobs, they just happily give up their career. Not just grudgingly give up their career, very happily give up their career.
Well, that, again, I would say that, the women themselves are not pushing the envelope enough. Because I know women in the bank who have army spouses, and they have managed to still manage in the sense that they have arranged in such a manner that the bank transfers them to the place where their spouse is going. And we have been quite considerate in these matters. So I don't really think, it's totally the organization's problem. It could be the particular person's problem. But having said that, at the end of the day, these transfers are a pain. They are a pain for men and women alike, let me tell you. Even men hate going away to some other new place. But again, those who have taken up these transfers, most of them have prospered. I believe that, challenges are there for a person to take, and each and every challenge, if you face them well, it actually contributes to your career rather than detracts from it.
Sure. Apurva, how much of the women at workplace dropping out problem is really women's issue, and how much of it can be really resolved by organizations?
I think to ensure that there is diversity, it's really a triad that has to work together. And the triad consists of the organization at the one end, the woman at the other end, and the men in her life at the third end, right? And I would give currently the best marks out of in this triangle to the organization. Because in the 30 years that I've been working, I've realized that, when we first started working, diversity was seen as a CSR initiative. So you got that one woman on as tokenism and said, okay, I've done my job to encourage diversity. In these 30 years, organizations have realized that there is an equation between diversity and profit. There are enough studies that tell us that GDP increases, families' income increases, obviously, and organizations' innovation increases, its margins increase, its long-term shareholder value increases the moment there is an increase in diversity. So organizations are really going out of the way, and I would say that in the last decade, the amount of change an organization has made, whether it is in the policies, whether it's in ensuring reservation, whether it is in flexi timing, whether it is in paternity, maternity benefits, they've done a very good job. Now we come to the others, which is the women and the men. And I would give lower marks to women because honestly, I have seen and I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of women. And I see successful women and women who give up. And the difference between them is not in any special talent or skill or opportunity or mentorship the successful women got. The difference is that they worked tremendously hard. They just did not give up. And it's very, very hard. When you have small kids who are crying and the guilt you're feeling when you're leaving your baby home and she's saying, Mama, please don't go to work. Mama, please don't go to work. The guilt that you feel. Equally, you go to office and as Arundhati ji said, you want to do your best. And that's a lot of hard work. And a lot of women give up. They give up not because they're not talented. They just give up because they don't want to persevere through that hard phase of their lives. And
Sure.
It's easier to sit at home. But I would give the worst marks to the men in our lives. Unfortunately, it is still a fact that who you marry is the single most important career decision you will take. Because the support
Warren
you
Buffett
get.
said it is the single most life decision you make, but I agree with you. It's
So-
a more important career decision.
And unfortunately, as mothers and as senior women, I don't think we are doing a good job of bringing up our sons right. We bring them up to be Raja Beta, to be given their food on a platter, to be fed hot chapatis, and we bring up our daughters to take care of them. So when they grow up, they see, the working women see, and that's the pressure they feel, that I have to be there to make hot chapatis for my husband and also go and do a great job. And I think that's the challenge that all of us together have to overcome.
Sure. Avani?
I think it's a privilege to have an August panel. Apologies, I have a very bad cough, so if I get a coughing bout, please excuse me. I love the way she triangulated the life of a woman and the men and the organization, and I totally agree that organizations have done very well, I think. Whether it's Tata's or you look at international companies, Godrej, or the companies that I've had the honor to work with. But I just very strongly believe that I think there's something wrong with the upbringing of all of us in the room if we squarely believe that hard work or the men in our life decide our destiny. I had the fortune of having my mother, her name is Kusum. She had a degree and an admission to MBBS, which she gave up because she was in love with my father. She chose not to be a doctor, but to be a homemaker. And for the longest time growing up in India and in Mumbai, in a middle-class family, absolutely cosmopolitan, I never thought for a minute that an organization or the man in my life is going to decide my destiny. And I'm telling you the honest truth. I think I worked hard. I have a lot of passion. Work is not my identity, but I want to achieve what I want to achieve. So if I were to turn the conversation, I think it is the locus of control being inside. I don't think any choice about who you marry, and all regard to the women on the panel, but today's young people don't even want to get married. I work with 20-year-olds, with MBAs, with baristas in stores, in Nature's Basket, a lot of people who work. marriage is not on the cards. So I don't think the man you marry is going to decide how your career or how your life is going to progress. I think it's women, and more than hard work, I think women have to stop playing the victim. I never felt guilty about leaving Param in the care of my mother-in-law because I was confident that she was great, and I made it very clear to her that I love her and she has to love my child. Yes, I was blessed and married to a good family, but I never felt guilty because going to work is going to give me mental sanity, it's going to give me the happiness and make me a better mother. About career choices and transfers, I think in 2016, I had a great opportunity to work with an international company, moved to Seattle. I had everything on a platter, private education for my son, amazing financial package, visas, everything. And when I look back and have conversations on forums like these or personal conversation with friends, I don't blame my husband or my son for not moving with me. I think I came to the realization that I won't be set up for success if they don't come with me, and it's not worth it. So I think transfers, children's schools, whether your husband will find a job or will his business move is all an excuse. I think women have to look into the mirror every day and be clear of what you want. So my mother often used to tell us that I could have been a doctor, I could have raised both of you with maids, I could have earned a lot of money, and I would have felt great. But when she looks at her life today, she has raised 2 beautiful daughters. She's had an amazing partnership with her husband. She's happy. Sadly, we lost my dad last year. But she said, I will have the same regrets or the memories anybody. So whichever path you choose, I think the ground rule is know what you want. And secondly, have the balls and the guts to say what you want, whether it's to the man at work, whether it's to the women at work, whether it's the people at home. I think if you stick to the basic principles, I think we don't need to give grades to organizations. We don't need to pander to the government to make it easy for us. It's up to us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very well
Very, very well said. Avani, I'm very envious of you. You said you don't suffer guilt pangs. I do, and a whole bunch of women do. There was something very beautiful that Zarina Screwvala, one of our women of worth last year, had said. A beautiful quote, and it really stayed with me. She said, what we women do is we let men be men, and we want to be super women. So my message from all of you, and something that all of us should really take away, is that let's not try to be super women. Let us also just be women and pursue whatever we want and not face so much guilt at work, at home, and life will be pretty sorted. So, coming back, Dipali, I think each one of you, if you can just share your own personal journey and how your career, I mean, through your 20, 30 years, how have you really managed your personal and professional life? What were the dilemmas you faced? What were the challenges you faced? And how did you really get to where you have got?
So I must share my journey. I started as I was a homemaker. I was a homemaker till my girls were 10 and 7. And that's the time I wanted to start working. And so I just got into the roots of working at what I needed to do, like looking into purchase, looking into administration. I started my brand Spaces in 2003. And 2010, I got into the textile business. And that's when the world woke up and said, hey, you know, a woman heading a textile business, it's a big deal. I mean, is Welspun serious about what they are looking at? But I honestly believe that first of all, I must say to the panel, and I think I totally agree, behind every successful woman, but there is a man. And for me, I think my partnership has been my true partner, my husband, because he supported me all the way through. And so when I started at Welspun in the textile role, I just got into the complete shop floor. I was at the textile mill. I was learning how the spinning was done, how was cotton bought, how my customers were at the other end. Luckily for me, the other side, the customer was a woman. So for me, that really worked very well. And I must say that for my daughters, I have 2 young women. And they inspire and aspire to be like me. Honestly, I think for the millennials, they
But
would
how
say...
did you, tell me what was the secret, what drove you to make that change, number one? To, you know, at some point switch from being a happy homemaker to actually getting into business whole time. What was that one point? What was the thought?
So for me, I've actually seen my mother work when I was a kid. And that was something that I took away. Being a Marwari girl, I got married very early. To the extent I did my education post I got married. So for me, I just couldn't sit at home. I had to do something. And for me, always it has been a constant journey to evolve and learn. So learning is never enough for me, and evolution is never enough. And that has been a journey for me, and that's where my journey began. And I constantly have taken that in my stride to go ahead.
Ma'am, you've had an absolutely stellar career. And I'm sure you faced a lot of challenges and dilemmas, especially being, in a banking career, like we spoke earlier, the transfers and getting right to the top. What were those challenges and dilemmas, and how did you resolve them for yourself?
Well, I think, the challenges and dilemmas are too many to finish in a space of 3 minutes. But if I can just tell you, one little thing that I really and truly did throughout my life is that I really believed in collaborative work, whether it be in the office or it be at home. So, I had good teams. And teams necessarily don't mean teams at work, they also mean at home. At home, I didn't have any in-laws or my parents who stayed with me. So necessarily my team were friends, neighbors, spouses of colleagues. So anybody, the caretaker who worked for me, so that was my home team. And my home team had to be so strong that even if I was not there, my absence was never felt. Somebody said about salt, that you never notice it when it's there, it makes things tasty, but you notice it the moment it's absent. Women have to be exactly the opposite. Nobody should notice if you're not there, but when you are there, you should value add in such a manner that they notice you are there. If you can do that, I promise you, you can manage both family and work equally well.
Sure. Lesson number 2, let's be the salt.
So again, I think the two pointers that I would like to just leave behind and is, one, you cannot give up. Life will throw its own set of challenges to both men and women. And we can spend half our time saying life has been unfair to me and look how it has been fair to men, but it's not true. It is equally fair and equally unfair to both men and women. It depends on us as to how we pick up whatever opportunities or challenges that are thrown our way and what we make out of that. And that is the only difference between success and failure. And the other thing the message for all young girls is that it should never be a choice in your mind. It is not about either or. And that's how, I recognize that through my life, it was never for a moment it came to my mind that I should either have a family or it was always and. I want both. And then life helps you and you all help yourself make it happen. It has to be at every stage and.
Sure. Avani?
I think I've not had so many years, I think about 15, 16 years that I've been working. I think what's helped me is really talking to a lot of women about leadership and about humanity. I think in all this gender diversity and career management and work-life balance, I think somewhere we seem to have lost the thread that we're all human beings. Gender is just the way that God has made us. I think we don't think differently or we don't act differently from men. I think we are all human beings at the end of the day. And as you think of your career or your entrepreneurship journey, while you will be managing resources, I think the key resource you have to manage is people. And for the life of me, I can't understand why we, fight this entire diversity piece at work, because 50% of our customers in any business is a woman, right? So you have to find a place, you have to find a way to work with them, because if they are not decision makers, then obviously your businesses are not going to do well because they don't have that diversity. I think coming back to what has worked for me in my life is very simple human values of authenticity. Yes, everything should be an and. I'm known to be extremely selfish, self-centered, sometimes very greedy, and you should be that. I think there is nothing in the world, at least that my parents taught me, or colleagues, peers, mentors have said, you should want everything that you want in life. But you should have the courage to tell people what you want and fight for it. It's not just about hard work or about choices, but telling. And I think the conversation really is, do we shy away from that? The reason I don't feel guilty about leaving Param today, he has a holiday for this week as he starts school next week, is because he knows this is important to me and this is who I am. So you don't have to feel guilty if you don't make a hot fulka, and I'm sure that 90% of the future working women are not going to make fulkas because you'll have a robot doing it, or you're going to share those responsibilities with your partners. But I think having that courage to say it without the guilt, neither organization, policies, nor government, no such forums are going to teach you. I think you need to sleep every day very peacefully, telling yourself what you want and then going after it. And if I look at my career, I think at several stages, even when I was expecting, to Arundhati's point, I think at that stage I had a fabulous opportunity to be a sales manager of a hotel. The P&L size is about 450 crores, run it, and the position of director of sales in one of the luxury hotels of the Taj is fantastic. And I didn't take it up because I was expecting, I was probably in my first trimester. I didn't take it up because my father-in-law had cancer at that time, right? And I wanted to be there for him because if he left us, then I would miss that. So the choice I made is, yes, I don't want to take up that kind of a taxing job. But believe me, after I came back, I took an even more taxing job. So you're right, running away from operational responsibility, I think don't even do that. Don't waste your time doing stuff because they are soft skills or because you want to kill time between 9 to 5. I think then it's fine. The organization should be unfair to you because you're not being fair to yourself. So if you're ambitious, you want to get something, you want to achieve something, just go ahead and do it. And I think as I look at the last 3 years of my life and the time I've spent in Godrej, when I see both the promoter families and I look at women working all around, I think the conversation is far beyond maternity leave, far beyond flexi hours. All of this is a hygiene at Godrej One. I don't know how many of you have seen our campus, but that is a given. And every woman and every graduate you talk to, they expect it. This is the way of life for the future workforce. But what makes it different is, are you courageous enough to have conversations at work? Are you open about what you want to do with your life? I think we need to focus on that, having that conversation at home with the men or women or whichever partner you choose to, and at the organization. So that's 2 bits about me, about humanity and authenticity.
Sure. Thank you so much. We're just running out of time. Maybe just a couple of questions from the audience, if anybody has any questions to ask. Is there a mic going around?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Outlook Business, to call us in an August company and be a part of such a great discussion. I had a question in mind that while we are talking about women equality and organizations doing so much for women, then why, as women, we want reservations in any of the organizations? We should have, like, government is giving us in government jobs, we are having reservations for women. We need to stand in, we want separate queues for women to buy tickets or something like those. So why are we doing that? If we are talking about women equality, then why can't we just stand with men and take opportunities? Why do we need reservations? What are your thoughts on that?
So, it's very easy to sit in a room like this and say, oh, why do we need reservations? Oh, let us have the courage to fight and let us have the courage to have conversations and talk. But if you go out in the real world, in the last 30 years since diversity has been talked about so much, actually women participation in the labor force has gone down. It used to be around 52% and worldwide it's now at 48%. At middle management levels across a large part of the world and specifically India, there are only 15% middle managers who are women. At senior levels, there are only 5%. Okay? So you look at a battle that has been going on for 30 years, and the answer is that the pyramid has not changed. It's 30, 15, 5. So at that moment is the moment that one has to start asking questions. And of course, I encourage women that we must speak out for our rights and we must ask for anything. But something has to change in the world. For 4,000 years, the society has been patriarchal. Rules are made by men, decisions are made by men. When they look for people to be in a part of a board, they look for men because they are people like themselves, right? So you have to force something to change, and that change can only happen if there are reservations. Now, I don't encourage reservations as a long-term solution, because then what will happen is that you will encourage mediocrity to rise. But as a short-term catalyst solution, because otherwise what happens, women just become invisible. Men don't reach out, and men, unless you force men to hire women, it will not happen. So I think reservations are important as a short-term measure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm here with a bunch of 20-somethings and couldn't relate to most of the other pointers that were being discussed about family and things like that. My question is to anyone in the panel, not particularly at someone. If you'd look back at your 20-year-old self, what is that one thing that you'd tell your 20-year-old self if you'd look back right now? And any advice to us millennials, something that we should, keep in mind going forward?
Wow, your advice to your 20-year-old self.
The one thing only I think that I tell myself that I should have done more is probably got a few more degrees and got the stamps that I really required. One thing about the millennials I'll tell you is that you've really got to be on your toes regarding the way you keep learning and evolving. Today's day and age, things are changing so fast. If you get off the learning track, you're definitely going to be left behind. So learning on a daily basis is a must. Never ever forget that.
I have two young girls like you, and I always tell them, what you do, you should love and do it with passion. And believe in what you do. I think this is what I tell them, and that's what they take away.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question now? I'm representing FICCI Ladies organization over here. And I think it is pretty much established through various studies, whether it is by World Economic Forum or McKinsey or all of these organizations, that it is not a hygiene factor now, but it is a strategic value that women are there in decision-making process at board level, because 50% of the population the world over comprises of women, and you cannot leave 50% of the population out if you have to develop. And women have come to that level today that we have enough pool of qualified and competent women. And so coming from there, that since the study already proves it and we don't have any more questions to be raised as far as this aspect is concerned, I'd like to ask that how much important, according to you, because you've already been in senior leadership roles at the board level, Arundhati, and Dipali leading her own, she's from a family-owned organization, all in very powerful positions, Apurva and Avani as a leader. So I'd like to know that what, according to you, is the importance of mentorship and sponsorship, that there are more women, not like as in case of Arundhati, that in 200 years of SBI, we finally see a woman chairperson. So whether is it going to take another 200, 400 years, or women are going to pull women up, and whether it is, since you belong to the corporate sector, I have a question there, and I have a question to the politicians also of the country, that why they are not mentoring more women to come into the parliament, why we are only 11% in parliament, the women. Why we should not
Can
be
I give
more?
a
And is there a big role that women leaders have to play over here?
No, you're absolutely right, and I think a mentor and a sponsor are both required in women's lives. You know, both are very much required, and as for SBI, there is already a woman MD who will be eligible for chairman when this current chairman retires. So it's not going to be that long, don't worry. Okay?
I just want to quickly say one thing on this particular, since you brought it up. It's at the current pace of change, it is going to take 108 years for things to become equal, 108 more years. So how can we fast forward this change? Of course, sponsorship and mentorship, but even more important, and this is a
platforms
message,
like WoW.
and platforms like WoW, but even more important is the role that each one of you play. It is believed that women and young women will aspire to be different and to reach out if they see women role models around them. Each of you needs to go out of this room and be a role model in her own right.
So, I'll just add one small thing. For me at Welspun, my door is always open for all the girls there. They can walk in any time, and they know that I'm there for them. So it's at all levels, because for my number, I mean, at Welspun, definitely, when I started, there were 8% women. And today I have 25% women. And that's also in the workforce. And in the senior leadership, it's around 30% women.
Thank you. That was a lovely discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed it too. Thanks.
Ladies, that's what we mean by Power Panel. Can we have a huge round of applause for this August panel? And I'd now like to request Ms. Mahalakshmi to kindly present mementos to our panelists as a token of our appreciation. Mementos courtesy Indiosa. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one more huge round of applause. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you very much, Ms. Mahalakshmi, for moderating that amazing conversation.